We, the people of India.
In this module, you learn about our Constitution. In this chapter, you learn the Constituent Assembly of Constitution, the Constitution Drafting Committee and Framing of Constitution, the Preamble to the Constitution, the salient features of the Constitution, the fundamental rights, duties and directive principles of state policy. India had to face many problems soon after independence, rehabilitating the refugees who migrated from Pakistan, mergers of the princely states, maintenance of law and order are the challenges during the beginning of independence. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel successfully achieved the mergers of princely states and provinces with the Union of India. Even the challenges of framing a constitution in order to enable us to govern the country was also fulfilled. Now, let's know about the structure of our constitution, its characteristics, and about the fundamental rights and duties mentioned therein. Let's now understand the Indian Constituent Assembly. Constitution is a set of rules and regulations guiding the administration of a state. The recommendations of the Motilal Nehru Committee and the decisions taken by the meeting of Indian National Congress at Karachi in the year 1939 emphasized the need for the formation of a Constituent Assembly. As per the recommendations of the Cabinet Commission, a Constituent Assembly with Indian members was formed in the year 1946. The Assembly had 389 members initially. With the partition of India, the total number came down to 299. There were 7 members from Mysore princely states as well. The first meeting of the new Constituent Assembly was held on 9th December 1946. The next meeting was held on 11 December 1946 under the chairmanship of Dr. Rajendra Prasad. Other eminent personalities like Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, C. Rajgopalachari, K. M. Munshi, T. T. Krishnamachari, Srimati Sarojini Naidu, Srimati Sucheta Kirpalini attended the meeting. People from Karnataka were S. Nijlingappa, K. C. Reddy, Kengal Hanmantaya, Tekur Subramaniam and others were also present. Now let's try to understand the drafting committee. The Constituent Assembly formed 22 committees and 5 subcommittees to examine in detail all the issues related to the country. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of one of the most important committees, that is, the Drafting Committee. Based on his contribution to the framing of the Constitution, he is called as a Chief Architect of Indian Constitution. The other members of this committee were N. Gopal Swami Iyengar, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, K. M. Munshi, T. T. Krishnamachari and some other eminent statesmen. Now let's understand the framing of the Constitution. The Constituent Assembly took 11 months and 18 days to complete its work. During these discussions, various laws enacted by the British government in 1909, 1919 and 1935, the British parliamentary system, the American Bill of Rights, the social directive policies of Ireland were studied and some elements of those were incorporated. Finally, the Indian Constitution was approved on 26th of November 1949 and came into force on 26th January 1950. This day is celebrated as a Republic Day in our country. Now let's understand the preambles to the Constitution. The Indian Constitution has combined itself the best features of different constitutions of the world and has its own preamble. The preamble contains the fundamental policies and ideals of the Constitution. It is the sum of the structure, values, principles, and goals of the Constitution. It is based on the aspirations and ideals of the people of India. The preamble is a part of objective resolution put forwarded by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru on December 13, 1946 and approved by the Constituent Assembly on January 22, 1947. This resolution upholds the nature of Indian sovereign, democratic, republic nature. Social, economic, and political justice is upheld for all the people in this preamble. Now let's recite the preamble.
We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution.
The preamble to our Constitution is very meaningful. It describes our political system and is a key to understand our Constitution. It has been described as the jewel of the Constitution. K. M. Munshi has referred to it as a political horoscope. Now let's understand the preamble in more detail. The preamble of the Constitution begins with "We the people of India." The Indian Constitution is framed by the Indians. It strives to fulfill the dreams of Indians. India is a sovereign country and not under the control of any other country in the world. It is not a part of any bloc. It has its own foreign policies, non-alignment policies, and 5-year plans, by implementing which the country has achieved internal and external autonomy. The goal of our Constitution is to create social equality and promote welfare of all the people in our country. To enable this, Directive Principles of State Policy have been incorporated in the Constitution through the 42nd Amendment done in the year 1976. Through this amendment, land reforms and other progressive economic reforms were introduced. The word secular has been incorporated in Constitution through the 42nd Amendment in the year 1976. No religion has given the status of the national religion. So, India is a secular country. Citizens have the liberty to practice any religion they desire. All religions have equal status in country. Securing the happiness of everyone is the responsibility of a government in a democracy. People are solved through problems are solved through discussions. Elections are held every 5 years through universal adult franchising. The fact that our head of the state is the President of India, who is elected for the period of 5 years, proves that our country is a republic. Now let's learn about the salient features of our Constitution. Ours is a written and lengthy Constitution, partially flexible and partially rigid, follows a republican system, follows a parliamentary form of government, federal system, and provides the fundamental rights and delegates the fundamental duties. Also have the directive principles of state policy to the government. Independent and centralized judiciary system is advised. Gives for a single citizenship. Follows on universal adult franchise. It's a bicameral legislature and follows the party system. Now let's learn the salient features in detail. Our constitution is in written form. The powers and functions of the organs of the government like legislature, executive and judiciary have been delineated in the constitution. Fundamental rights, duties, directive principles of state policies, etc. are all in the written form. Originally, our constitution consisted of 22 chapters, 8 schedules, and 395 articles. Later, after the many amendments, it has become a lengthy constitution with 25 chapters, 12 schedules, and 465 articles. Our constitution is partially flexible and partially rigid. The constitution which can be easily amended is called flexible or simple constitution, whereas constitution that has special procedures for amendment are called rigid or complicated constitutions. Our constitution is neither too flexible nor too rigid. Some laws can be changed and amended with simple majority, whereas to change some other laws they required the absolute majority. The Constitution has declared India a republic. The head of the country is indirectly elected by the citizens. In India, the president is the constitutional head of a state and he is elected. Our constitution provides for a parliamentary form of government. The sovereign power of the nation is vested in the elected representatives. The executive is responsible to the legislature at the central and the state levels. The cabinet shall be in power as long as it enjoys the confidence of the legislature. As soon as it loses the confidence of the legislature, it has to resign. Our constitution provides for a federal system of a government because our country consists of different languages, different caste, race and geographical regions. Administrative powers are shared between the central and the state governments. The central list has 100 subjects, the state list has 61 subjects of administration, and the concurrent list consists of 52 subjects of administration. The Supreme Court possesses power to solve all the dispute rising between the center and the state with respect to any of the subjects. The rights that the Constitution has given to the people are called fundamental rights. No law or any government, central or state, or any organization can deny these rights to its citizens. If the fundamental rights are taken away or endangered, the citizen can directly appeal to the High Court or Supreme Court of a country. These rights are listed in the Part 3 of Indian Constitution. Duties are our responsibilities towards our country. 11 fundamental duties have been delineated in the Part A of the 4th chapter under Clause 51A of our Constitution. Through the 86th Amendment to the Constitution in 2002, the 11th duty was added in the Constitution. The next is Directive Principles of State Policy. Directive Principles of State Policy have been incorporated in the 4th schedule of our Constitution. These principles have been adopted from the Irish Constitution. They are the basis for the establishment of social and economic equality in the country. They are the basic principles required for the administration of a country. Yet, the government cannot be questioned by a court of justice if it does not implement them. When the government frames new laws, it should pay attention to these directive principles. Our judiciary system is independent and centralized. The country have the authority to give bold judgments in order to protect the right of the people. Neither the legislature nor the executive has the right to interfere with the working of the judiciary. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, and all high courts and subordinate courts function under the Supreme Court. The Constitution makes provision for single citizenship in order to curb narrow-minded provincialism and promote nationalism. The citizens of this country have the same rights, irrespective of their place of birth or residence. The legislature possesses the power to frame rules in this matter. The Constitution provides for adult franchising. All citizens above 18 years of age may exercise their right to vote. It symbolizes the sovereign, absolute power of the people. The central legislature is called as Parliament. Our Parliament consists of two houses, the lower house called Lok Sabha and the upper house called as Rajya Sabha. Political parties are the pillars of a democracy. There is a multi-party system in India. The party which wins the majority of votes in the general election becomes the ruling party, whereas the rest will be the opposition parties. Now let's try to understand in detail the fundamental rights and fundamental duties given by our Constitution. Fundamental rights. Fundamental rights provide the social and political atmosphere necessary for the development of personality of citizens. They are required for a person to lead a civilized life in society. They are also essential for the success of a democracy. There were 7 fundamental rights mentioned in Part 3 of our Constitution. However, after the 44th Amendment, the right to property has been abolished. Now, there are 6 fundamental rights. First, the right to equality. This right is very essential for the success of democracy. Under this, all citizens are equal socially and economically before the law. All are equal before law and nobody is above the law. All should get equal protection of the laws and none should be discriminated against on the basis of their caste, religion, gender or place of birth. No citizen should be subjected to any restrictions with regards to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels, places of public entertainment or public places of worship. Under this right, untouchability is an offense. The right to has enabled every citizen to get an equal opportunity to join government services. The next right is the right to freedom. It is one of the important fundamental rights. Under this right, one who expresses his own opinion to conduct meetings without arms, the established organizations, to live anywhere in the country and to follow any profession and move around the country. It is a protective right also, and no one can be arrested without proper reason. No state law can snatch the life and freedom of the citizens. The next right is right against exploitation. The aim of this right is to prevent exploitation of women, children, the poor and the weak. Begging, the Devadasi system, the practice of sati, immoral activities and forced labor have been prohibited. Employment of children under the age of 14 years in mining, industries and other dangerous occupation is a punishable offence under law. The next right is right to freedom of religion. Since India is a secular country, no religion has been given the status of a national religion. Citizens can accept any religion that their conscience dictates, practice it and propagate it. No one can be forced to pay taxes for the management of religious institutions. Use of religious places for political and other activities has been prohibited in the country. Next right is right to constitutional remedies. The Constitution has not only given fundamental rights to the citizens of the country but also guarantees them under Article 32. Whenever the rights are violated either by a person or a state government or a central government, the citizens may appeal directly to the Supreme Court for their protection. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has called this right the heart and soul of our Constitution. If any individual or the government at the center and the state appears to violate a person's right, he has the right to approach the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is empowered to enforce the fundamental rights. Hence, it is called the protector of fundamental rights. Even the high courts have the power to pass the following writs under the Article 226. The writs are the habeas corpus, the mandamus, the prohibitory, the certiorari, and quo warranto. Now let's understand the fundamental duties. Rights and duties are the two faces of the same coin. Rights without duties have no value or significance. 10 fundamental duties were included in Chapter 4, Part A, Article 51A, with the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution. With 86th Amendment in 2002, there are now 11 fundamental duties, and they are to respect the Constitution, the national flag, and the national anthem of a country, to follow the noble ideals that inspire our national struggle or freedom, to protect the integrity of our country, to defend the motherland when called upon to do so, to promote the spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India and disown those rituals that go against the dignity of women, to preserve our rich heritage, to protect and develop environment including forest, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and show compassion to animals, to develop the scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry, to safeguard public property and to obtain from violence, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activities, and the last one, that the parents or the guardians should provide an opportunity for education to the children from the age of 6 years to 14 years. Now let's move to the Directive Principles of State Policy. With their aim to establish welfare state, certain directive principles of state policy have been incorporated in the Constitution under 4th part of 36 to 51 articles. These principles serve as the guidelines to the state. The framers of our Constitution were inspired by the Irish Constitution to include such directive principles. These directive principles are in the form of directions to the central and the state governments. And they are to provide adequate means of livelihood to all the citizens, to prevent the community wealth and resources from becoming the private property of few people, to provide equal pay for equal work both to men and women, and to protect the labor welfare, to provide public assistance to those who are old, sick, weak, or helpless, to implement a uniform civil code throughout the country, to provide opportunities for development of health and free school education to all children below 6 years of age, to protect historical monuments and to maintain places of historical interest, to separate the executive from the judiciary, to protect international peace and respect international laws, to establish gram panchayats, to encourage rural and cottage industries, to organize and develop agriculture and animal husbandry on modern lines, to ensure prohibition of liquors, and to ensure development of farming based on scientific methods. The directive principles of state policy are very important. They aim to achieve social welfare. That's all we have for today. Thank you.